The goal is to equip you with the working models you need to purchase investment properties with a market value of $1 million or more. Believe it or not, this is not the huge leap you might imagine. Many investors reach that mark long before they ever expected they would. Buy a Million is about the fundamentals of acquiring properties, holding them, and in some cases selling them. Buy a Million applies the power of criteria, terms, and network to launch your career in investing. After you buy a million, you'll set your sights on having an equity position of $1 million or more in your properties. We call this third stage Own a Million. This is when you realize that the investing you have done has blossomed into a bona fide business. With that transformation comes a set of issues specific to that level of ownership. Acquiring properties through credit potentially becomes more difficult. Cash becomes a commodity, and managing your investments could require help from several quarters. This stage involves dealing with, and often balancing, cash flow with asset or equity buildup. It may involve selling, trading up, or exchanging. It certainly involves understanding the surprisingly simple realities of tax and owner entity issues. The good news is that by understanding these issues from the beginning, you can plan for them. That is what the models in this book are intended to help you do. By beginning with the right models, proven ones that can handle the big issues, you'll never have to stop and scratch your head, or worse, start over and reinvent what you do. The fourth and last stage of growth for a millionaire real estate investor, the idea of the individual entrepreneurial investor pounding the streets for deals, is what comes to mind for most people. But time after time throughout our research, investors referred to all the people who helped them succeed. They had relationships with people who sent them opportunities, mentored them, and helped them buy and maintain the properties. In many cases, this network of support provided services that enabled the investors to do more while spending less time and effort. As a business person, I call this leverage. The fact that you can accomplish more with qualified help than you can accomplish alone. When we review network in detail in the Buy a Million chapter, we'll help you understand how to establish a dream team for your investment career. From real estate agents to contractors and property managers, you will need help. In fact, although it was the last of the three items we identified, network will come first in your investing career, as you'll rely on those people to help get your investment career launched safely, reliably, and profitably. The three areas of focus for the millionaire real estate investor, criteria, terms, and network, is receive a million. Think of it as the summit, a place where only the best have gone. Receive a million is when you are in a position to receive an annual income of $1 million from your investments. Pivotal to this stage is that your investment business be designed so that you can choose to get out of the day-to-day work and enjoy the benefits of what you've created. Although you can step out at any point along the way, it is my hope that you will set your sights on a big goal. Exactly when you decide to move into the receive mode is up to you. Obviously, you don't have to wait until you're receiving $1 million a year. Like some of the investors we met in our research, you can accept the cash flow you've built and step out of the business sooner. Or you can wait and receive more down the line. The point is that if you've followed the models of the millionaire real estate investor, you will have more choices. And that is a very good thing to have in your financial wealth building life.
Moving forward.
I believe that everyone has a chance to be financially wealthy. It begins with a state of mind, a way of looking at the world, and ultimately it evolves into a way of life. Financially wealthy people think differently from the rest, and as a result make different choices and enjoy more freedom in their lives. It's about living a large life. It's about having greater choices. This book is about one of the best ways I know to build financial wealth: real estate investing. Real estate is accessible to all and is easily one of the most leveraged ways to build wealth. The biggest obstacles most people face are their own doubts and fears. Building financial wealth can seem both daunting and dangerous. But as we've said, opportunity, especially great opportunity, always lives on the other side of your fears. Learning how to get past those fears is our next task. In the following section, Mythunderstandings, we're going to reveal the kinds of fears that hold most people back and explore why those fears are generally unfounded. Answer the questions of what you'll buy, how you'll buy it, and who will help you. Remember, criteria identify potential deals. Terms determine the real deals. And your network supports all the deals you do. Mastering these three areas will give you the greatest chance for long-term success and place you solidly on the path to becoming a millionaire real estate investor.
The 4 stages of growth on the path to $1 million.
The path of the millionaire real estate investor involves a progression through 4 stages. Think of these 4 stages as the building blocks inside the triangle created by the dynamic trio of your criteria, terms, and network. First, you must learn to think a million. Think like a millionaire real estate investor before you make your first move. How you think matters. Whether this strikes you as a cliche or as a timeless truth, my experience has taught me that the bigger I think, the more I can accomplish. I've learned that what I hold in my mind is what shows up in my life. Learning to think like a millionaire real estate investor will give you the greatest chance of becoming one. The second stage is to buy $1 million, in which you'll get a thorough understanding of the best models for investing in real estate, and more fundamentally, an understanding of money, the ways it's made and the ways it can be lost. We want to encourage you to shed any baggage that might slow you down. Then, armed with proven big models and powered by your big goals, you can confidently go for big results. You can follow the path of the millionaire real estate investor. It is a journal of financial wealth building. It is a journey worth taking. It can be your journey, too.
To summarize, you have 6 key points to remember. First, each of us should wake up every day and say to ourselves, I'm an investor. I'm building financial wealth. Is today the day I find an opportunity and make a deal? Second, a proven model is a process or method used to produce desirable, repeatable results. A proven model built on the best practices of high achievers will produce the most desirable and predictable results and maximize your chances for continued success over time. Third, high achievers use models to take the aspect of luck out of the game. They implement big models to minimize risk and maximize profit when buying, holding, and selling real estate. Fourth, remember the dynamic trio of investing, the triangle that includes your criteria, terms, and network. Fifth, keep in mind your criteria identify potential deals, your terms determine the real deals, and your network supports all your deals. Last, there are 4 stages through which the millionaire real estate investor progresses. Think $1 million, buy $1 million, own $1 million, and receive $1 million, and are best pursued in that order. Mythunderstandings.
In the old fable, The Devil's Best Tool, the devil is going out of business and selling all the tools of his trade. For sale are implements such as the hammer of hatred, the scythe of spite, the maul of malice, and the dagger of deceit. As one would expect, the devil's tools are all ominous, but oddly, the highest priced item in his arsenal is an extremely worn and harmless-looking wedge. When asked why it is so expensive, the devil slowly smiles and says, "To be totally candid, this may be my most powerful weapon of all. I call it the wedge of doubt. When all my other tools fail me, I know I can always rely on doubt and discouragement to break the heart and shatter the will of man."
You are generally right. Step number 6, you need to feed your mind with the good, the clean, the pure, the powerful, and the positive. Let me ask you a question. If I were to come into your living room one day with a pail of garbage and dump it on your living room floor, what do you think you'd do? I bet I can answer the question. You would either get your gun and say to me, now, Ziglar, I'll bet you can clean that up. Or you'd get on the telephone and you'd call the police. Or you'd whip me as long as I was there. Those are things you would probably do. I mean, and then for months you'd be talking about this crazy guy came in my home, dumped garbage on the floor. Ought to shot him. As a matter of fact, I wish I had. But we could clean the garbage up off your living room floor. But what about the garbage that we dump in our mind every single day? Einstein said that it takes 11 correct inputs to overcome one incorrect input. And a lot of the things which go in our minds and in our children's minds is not a thing in the world but pure garbage. I would ask you to do this. Evaluate what you read and what you view. Evaluate it in this light. Will this really help me to accomplish my objectives in life? Or is this going to be a deterrent to me accomplishing my objectives in life? Remember, you're what you are and where you are because of what's gone into your mind. And you can change what you are, you can change where you are by changing what goes into your mind. Now, as you probably suspect, I'm an absolute enthusiast about the cassette recorder. I believe that's ridiculous. See, I'm 60 years old. I don't care how positive I got. I could not whip a boxing champion. I don't care how positive I got. I could not play football in the NFL or the basketball in the NBA. I don't care how positive I got. I couldn't perform major surgery on you and have you live. Nor could I give you a lecture on nuclear physics. Positive thinking won't let you do anything, but it will let you do everything. Better than negative thinking will. Now, I know that for most busy people, getting regular exercise is about as easy as climbing Mount Kilimanjaro. But it can be done. You've just got to have a plan. You've got to set some goals because it's just as difficult to reach a destination you don't have as it is to come back from a place you've never been. Unless you have definite, precise, clearly defined goals, you will not realize the maximum potential that lies within you. And this applies to every aspect of your life, not just to exercise. Now, here's some steps you can take towards that end. First, identify your goals, and next, set a deadline for reaching them. Make a list of obstacles you have to overcome to reach your goals. Identify the people who can help you overcome those obstacles, and make a list of skills you have and those you need to achieve your goals. And if you don't want the land, he said, I'll offer you $1 million in cash. And he said, if you don't want that, I will give you the hand of my beautiful daughter in marriage. Now, I don't have to tell you fellas this, but I think it's obvious that everybody knows that she is our only heir. And the one who gets her for his bride will eventually get all of this. Well, the words were no sooner out of his mouth than there was a loud splash at one end of that pool, followed by an almost immediate emergence of a dripping young man at the other end of that pool. He had set a world's record which will never even be approached. Well, the host was all excited. He ran down there, and as the young man was just shaking himself off from that fast swim, he said, congratulations, son, that's absolutely fantastic. He says, do you want the 5,000 acres of my best land? The young man said, no, sir. He said, well, do you want the $1 million in cash? He said, no, sir. Well, he said, then, son, I've got to assume that you want the hand of my beautiful daughter in marriage. The young man said, no, sir. And the West Texan said, well, son, for crying out loud, what do you want? The young man said, I want to know the name of that dude that pushed me in the swimming pool. Now, I think we'll all agree that he was motivated. But I think we'll also agree that most people are confused about motivation. One of the favorite questions the media often ask me is, Mr. Ziglar, now you're going to do this 4-hour seminar. Yep, that's right. And you're going to get the people all motivated. I said, I sure hope so. That's what management brings me in for. Well, let me ask you a question, Mr. Ziglar. Where will these people be a month from now, 6 months from now? In other words, Mr. Ziglar, tell me, is motivation permanent? Well, I got to look at you folks and say, no, motivation is not permanent. But then neither is bathing. But that doesn't mean I don't approve of bathing. As a matter of fact, I strongly encourage it. Eating is not permanent unless you don't eat, and then pretty soon your condition will be permanent. No, motivation is not permanent for the simple reason that we've got demotivation, which takes place every day of our lives. There's more confusion about motivation and positive thinking than just about anything that I have ever encountered. I believe in this presentation, though, we're going to be able to clarify much of that for your benefit, and more importantly, share with you how you can keep the motivation and the positive thinking going. Positive thinking won't let you do anything. I get so annoyed when I hear some people enthusiastically stand up and say, man, with positive thinking you can just do anything. Just believe it, and man, think about it positive enough, you can do it. And then develop a plan. Now, a word about goals themselves. There are 7 different kinds of goals. There are physical, financial, spiritual, career, family, mental, and social. And these 7 types of goals share several characteristics. First, to be effective, they must effect change. We must have some big goals because thinking big creates the excitement necessary for accomplishment. Second, you must have some long-range goals so that short-range frustrations don't stop you in your tracks. Occasionally, circumstances do arise that are beyond your control, and oftentimes, obstacles such as market changes, sickness, accidents, or family problems can be pretty intimidating. But by keeping your eye on the prize, you will find that the excitement of winning that prize will carry you through the tough times. Third, if you don't have daily objectives, you qualify as a dreamer and not as a doer. Dreamers are fine, provided they build foundations under their dreams by working daily towards them. Often, the difference between the great and the near great is the awareness that making it big means working every day towards our long-range objectives. And 4, your goals must be specific, not vague or general. If you want a new home, for example, know every detail of that house. How many square feet, number of rooms and bathrooms, the shape of the living room, the type and kind of lot, its location. If it's a car you're dreaming about, picture the make, the model, the color, and every option you want it to have. You see, if you want to reach your goal, you must see it, be able to smell, to touch, and to taste it. Know how it looks and what it feels like in your own mind. Before you can reach that goal, you see, it is true that whether you think you can or think you can't.
The big 3 myth understandings about the way you look at yourself as an investor. Personal myth number 1. I don't need to be an investor. My job will take care of my financial wealth. Personal truth number 1. Yes, you do need to be an investor. Your job is not your financial wealth.
It's almost epidemic how many people think they don't need to be an investor. Usually that happens because they believe, consciously or unconsciously, that the path to financial wealth is through one's job. If you're like me and believe that financial wealth is about having enough unearned income to finance your life mission without the need to work, chances are your current job income and savings plan won't be nearly enough to build true financial wealth. It's highly unlikely that your job creates enough income for you to set aside a manageable percentage of it, and at an average rate of interest still achieve true financial wealth. Many years ago, this was a common and encouraged practice that I call the myth of the modest saver. Thrifty individuals would stash small sums of money in coffee cans, under mattresses, and in personal savings accounts, believing they eventually would achieve financial freedom. In more modern times, this modest saver has evolved into the modest investor. This is the person who takes a small percentage of his or her annual income and invests it in his or her company pension plan, a 401k, or a mutual fund. In this time when many people don't save or invest at all, these modest savers and investors are actually ahead of the game, but their investments almost never amount to true financial wealth. All the modest saver of old and the modest investor of today actually build is a small financial nest egg to provide for their most basic needs. When most people stop to do the math, they're shocked at how little income their current investment plan will provide when they quit working. The truth is that only a tiny percentage of people, probably less than 1%, make enough income from their jobs to become financially wealthy. How upsetting that something so small and often dismissed can be so devastating. As surprising as this is, the moral of this fable is quite clear. Don't underestimate the power of doubt to keep you from becoming your best. Yet that's exactly what often happens in the world of investing. People doubt either their abilities or the possibilities. They simply don't believe they can really be investors, or that investing can help them reach financial freedom. When I talk with people about investing, what often becomes clear is that they don't initially recognize that fear or doubt is playing a significant role in their financial lives. They feel that investing is simply an intellectual option they have or haven't taken advantage of. While they can acknowledge the value of investing, they can't quite justify why they aren't doing it more often or at all. Only when pressed with questions such as, "Then why don't you do that?" do they finally realize that their doubts and fears are at least part of the reason they've been unable to give investing a serious and sustained try. That's when they finally have the aha, that the opportunities of investing live on the other side of their fears and doubts, that the best financial rewards, more than likely, will be found outside their comfort zones. That's when they finally understand that fears and doubts undermine their confidence and their actions, and ultimately drive a powerful wedge between them and their dreams. I'm talking about people such as highly paid athletes, actors, musicians, and executives. The extraordinary compensation these people receive is so large that they easily could live off a fraction of their income, invest the rest, and even with modest rates of return, achieve financial wealth. The operative word here is could. I'm continually amazed at how many of these high-income producers think they do not need to be investors. Here's the problem. They cling to a far-fetched assumption that their jobs will continue to provide these extraordinary streams of income. In fact, the more money people make, the more overconfident they tend to be about their financial future. Prosperity can provide a false sense of security. They may overspend and underinvest to the point that one day they wake up and realize they are on the downslope of their primary income earning years and their lifestyle is about to come to an end. Others understand they should be investing, but then delegate all the responsibility for their financial wealth building to other people. As presumptuous as it is to count on your income to always be there, I find it even more presumptuous to trust others to tend to your financial future. I don't want to diminish the value of financial advisors. To the contrary, I engage them, have great faith in them, and believe everyone should have them. What I am saying is that wherever your money is, you need to be there too. No matter how you make your money or how much you make, if you don't take an active role in your financial planning and money management, you're at grave risk of seeing your investments underperform, or worse, be lost. As the old saying goes, a fool and his money are soon parted. While we're not calling anyone a fool, not acting like an investor, or not being active in your investments is one of the most financially foolish positions you can take.
8 Mythunderstandings between you and financial wealth.
In the process of interviewing millionaire real estate investors for this book, a clear pattern emerged. almost without fail at one time or another. These high-achieving investors had to confront a persistent fear or a nagging doubt about investing that later proved to be unfounded. In fact, we were able to identify 8 of those limiting beliefs that would-be investors commonly hold about becoming an investor and about investing itself. While these doubts and fears are seldom addressed in other investment books and seminars, these millionaire real estate investors impressed on us how important it is to address these subtle yet powerful misgivings early in the game. Rest assured, they said, everyone who intends to become financially wealthy will deal with them sooner or later. It suddenly became obvious that these doubts don't go away on their own. Left unexamined or not dealt with, they can keep you from becoming a great investor. We came to understand that these are the Mythunderstandings, part myth and part misunderstanding, that people have about investing. And after some consideration, 2 distinct categories of Mythunderstandings emerged from the research. The first, your Mythunderstandings about the way you look at yourself as an investor. The second, your Mythunderstandings about the way you look at investing. What we learned was that people generally have 2 ways of looking at anything: the way they see themselves in the world and the way they see the world and how it works. You might think it would be reversed, that your perceptions of how the world works would inform your sense of how successful you could be. But for some strange reason, it isn't. The image you have of yourself as an investor becomes the lens through which you see the world of investing. And that self-image will either guide or misguide you. Interestingly, any myths you have about yourself as an investor tend to magnify your misunderstandings about investing. That's why we call the Mythunderstandings about the way you view yourself as an investor the Big 3. I encourage you to look at your job differently. Your job is the venue where you can earn your initial investment capital. Then a percentage of your wages must be dedicated to building up your investment stake. I don't want to shock you, but the legendary investor, Sir John Templeton, tells the story of how he and his wife lived off as little as 50% of their income at the beginning of his investment career. They made a game of seeing how well they could live on only a fraction of their household income. While you may not be like Templeton, choosing the path to financial wealth will require that you live off less than you make and consume less than the world tells you to. You can't let the media and advertisers set your values for you. Just as kids sometimes decide what to eat based on television commercials, adults tend to let the media convince them what they should spend their money on if their financial decisions aren't guided by a stronger compass. Don't get caught keeping up with the Joneses. The faster you reach a position where you can begin your investment career, the faster you'll be able to achieve financial independence. I love the story of James Sorensen. In the 1940s, Sorensen had a job selling medical supplies in the Salt Lake City area and got in trouble for not spending enough money on his sales visits with physicians. When he turned in his first expense report for less than $5, his supervisor told him he needed to spend, or at least report, $30 or more for his client entertainment expenses each week, or he'd spoil the business for everyone. But instead of taking doctors out for drinks or fancy meals, Sorensen would buy them a coffee or a soda. Then he'd take the difference and invest it in real estate. In those days, he could buy plots of land in Utah for as little as $25 an acre. About a decade later, the uranium boom hit, and those plots sold for thousands. Rather than just enjoy the perks, Sorensen didn't count on his job for his financial wealth, and started small. He spent a lifetime thinking like an investor, working at a job he had a passion for, and investing for his future. As a result, by 2004, he was reportedly worth approximately $4 billion. Ideally, you should look at your work this way. It can be a passion that pays you money for doing what you love to do. Some passions pay more than others, but as history indicates, they rarely pay enough to create financial independence. Your job is your job. Financial wealth building is something else. That is how I think Sorensen looked at it, and I encourage you to do the same thing.